sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Welcome to the No BS Sales School podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. I want to do something kind of different. I'm going to create a series. I'm going to do probably 8 in a row series, and I'm going to teach you, my listener, how I sell. I'm going to go through the process. I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to give it away in hopes that you can take this and use it and make you more money, maybe make the world a better place because we're not being salespeople acting like pushy assholes. So I don't want to talk to you about prospecting today. I want to talk to you about what happens after you get the meeting, right? After you've set the meeting and you're getting ready to go. One of the things that I find natural to salespeople is that after we set a meeting, we spend exactly zero time thinking about it until we get there, right? Unless maybe we're, grabbing brochures or some shit as we walk out the door. So I created the first step in my sales process is a pre-call planner. And I know salespeople don't like to plan. I know you don't like to do that. But by planning ahead of time, by spending 5 minutes before your sales call, planning, you can save yourself weeks in chasing down the road. My whole goal is to shorten your sales cycle. Make it 1, 2 meetings. If it's ordinarily been 5, make it 1 or 2. If it's normally been 7, maybe it takes 2 or 3. Take it from months to weeks. And see, usually the reason that our sales cycle is so long is because of us. We are the problem. So I find that a little bit of planning ahead of time before you go on the sales call can save you weeks and sometimes months. So I'm just going to go through it with you. Here it is, pre-call planner. This is a series of, I think it's 11 questions. And I'm going to go through them and I'm going to tell you why I asked these questions. Question number 1, who are you meeting? Sounds like a dumb question, but I want you to think about not only their name and that kind of stuff, what's their title? Are they a decision maker? Are they somebody who can get you to a decision maker? Are they a gatekeeper? Are they an influencer? I want you to think about that because that could influence how you have the rest of what your meeting setup is going to be like. Who are you meeting with? Next question is, when are you meeting? When is it? All right, seems kind of obvious, right? 2:00 on Tuesday or whatever time. What if it prompted you to think as well, gosh, have I sent a meeting invitation? Do they have it? Have they accepted it? Anybody on this, have you ever experienced where you showed up at a meeting and they weren't there, right? Maybe because you screwed up, maybe because they screwed it up. Have you sent a meeting invite? Has it been accepted? All right, so question number 2. Number 3, why are you meeting with them now? What's causing you to meet with them on this day? I mean, that seems kind of like a weird question. Why are you meeting with them? Well, to sell them something, right? Well, duh, maybe. But maybe you're meeting with them to understand more about their business. Maybe you're meeting with them to figure out, do they need to add on to something? Maybe you're meeting with them because you have a new product line you want to expose them to. Maybe you heard they're moving or something's changing. Why are you meeting? You need to know that. Question number 4. Why does the prospect think you're meeting? Why does the prospect think you're meeting? So here's one of the things I want to warn salespeople. Your prospect needs to know exactly why you are meeting with them before they meet with you. So I want you to picture that you've set this meeting and all of a sudden I am calling your prospect. And I said, hey, tell me something. Why are you meeting with Susan? And I want them to be able to say, well, Susan's coming over here to talk to me about our current processes and to see if what she has will help. What I want you to avoid is saying something like, hey, let's go to lunch, or hey, let me come by and see your office. When what you're really thinking is, hey, I want to sell you something. Be upfront with people. Why does the prospect think you're meeting? Have you gone in trying to deceive them of what this is about? Next question, how much time are you going to need for the meeting? How much time have you set aside? How much time do you think you need? Does the prospect know you need that much time? How annoying is it for everybody concerned when you're thinking an hour and they're thinking 15 minutes? Next question, what are some typical problems that people like your prospect are dealing with? What are some typical problems somebody might be dealing with that are in the situation your prospect is in? Think about that ahead of time. You have different types of prospects, is my guess. They may have different types of issues at different times. So before you go in there, think about some typical problems they may be having so you can remember to ask about them. Remember, your job on a sales call is to go to understand your prospect and to know that you understand them, for them to know that you understand them. So what are some typical, were they frustrated, worried, upset, disappointed? What are other people like them? What are some problems they're dealing with? Write those down. All these things. Don't just read it, write it down, because that's how you're going to learn. Next question. What are some questioning strategies you want to ask them to better understand their situation? Think about ahead of time, what are some of the questions you want to make sure you ask? Those of you involved in training know we've got about 10 questioning strategies, from let's pretend, third-party stories, assumptive questions, good, bad, negative reverse, ninja questions, reversing. There are millions of them. Which are the ones that you want to make sure you do? A lot of people forget to do good, bad. When you're going to kick out an incumbent, it is incumbent upon you to do good, bad, to find out what they like and maybe what they don't. Are there any issues there? Next question, what objections may come up? What kind of things might they say, hey, your company's too small, right? Hey, we're a giant company. We don't work with smaller companies. Or, hey, you guys can be too expensive. Think about what those objections are and be prepared to bring them up at the beginning of the meeting. Be prepared at the beginning of the meeting to say, my biggest fear is that you're hoping I'm going to be cheaper. Or my biggest fear is that you guys have been working with this other company for 50 years and the only reason you're talking to me is just because you're being nice. Deal with those things up front. So remember those. What are those objections? And bring them up front at the beginning. Because if that's going to kill your deal, how long do you want to stand there talking to somebody who's not going to do business with you? I would hope not very long. Here's a key question. The next question is, what is the best result, next step you could possibly expect at the end of this meeting? What is the best result, ideal outcome that you could expect at the end of this meeting? If you walked into this person's office and they trusted you 100%, they were your brother or your sister or your parents or your absolute best friend in the world, and they knew they needed your help, what decisions, what would be the best ideal outcome for this meeting? For some of us, it's, hell, they just buy. They'd sign a contract, give me a check. For others, maybe it's ideal outcome is that they would hire us to do a study. They'd write me a check to do, we call it a monkey's paw, a monkey's fist. Maybe that's the best, that they write you a check, right? So what's an ideal outcome? Why do we want to think about that? Because if you're not thinking what the ideal outcome could be, you're going to default to their ideal outcome, which is often leave your information, get the hell out of my office, right? You want to know what it is you're going in for. So once you've figured out what's the ideal outcome, know that that's what you're going to ask for. Hey, typically at the end of a meeting like this, we're going to figure out whether or not you will get assessments, whether or not you'll hire us to do a study. We're deciding whether or not we do business together. Here's the thing. That may scare the hell out of you, but you know who we're supposed to be calling on? Decision makers. So if you're calling on a decision maker, what should they do? They should be able to make a yes or no decision. So put it out there. Hey, why don't we figure out whether or not it makes sense to fire your existing agent and hire us? If you're in the commercial insurance business, it's a perfectly legitimate thing to ask. And maybe they say, oh, hell no, I can't make that decision now. And you say, okay, that's fine. And then you go to the next thing. What is the next best thing, or what's minimally acceptable? What's the next best thing you could have? Well, maybe it's that maybe you decide the next best thing is that they just give you your information. At the end of the meeting, they decide whether or not they give you all their insurance information, everything that they have. And at the end of that meeting, they decide whether or not they're going to do that. And also know what's the minimally acceptable thing. What's the thing that if they will only give you this, you say, hey, thanks, I'm out. You need to know that too. We're not the right fit for everybody. Before you go into the meeting, I want you to have these thoughts wrapped up in your head. Next question. Last question. Where could you screw this up? Some people are like, oh, there's no way I could screw this up. Yes, you can. You 100% can. And I want you to think about where you could screw this up. And maybe it's because you say, I didn't follow my process that I know, or I didn't find enough pain, or I didn't even ask pain questions, or that I wimp out and don't push back when they tell me everything's fine. Or maybe you screw this up because you didn't ask, are they talking to other people? Or maybe you screw it up because you don't find out what their budget is to fix the problem before you tell them how much it costs. Where are the places you normally screw things up? Write it down. When you do that, then you've got your pre-call plan. And when you walk into your meeting, you've taken 5 minutes to go through this stuff. It can save you weeks. I'm Walker McKay with No BS Sales School podcast. This is episode 1 of how to sell like a No BS sales pro. Episode 2 next will be, how do we manage our prospects and our own expectations at the beginning of a meeting? Thank you all for listening very much. Do me a favor, if you have not already, go to iTunes and click on the No BS Sales School podcast. Scroll down to the bottom where it says reviews and write a review for me. Not just 5 stars or 3 stars or 1 star, but write some words down there. We're getting good review. We're getting good action. Apple rewards people who get people that write recommendations. They'll move me higher up the list. How about help a brother out? Go write a review for me. If you take a picture of it and send it to me, I'll send you something cool. Send it to walker@walkermckay.com or text it to me, 803-917-2817. Write a review for me. Take a picture of it, text it or email it to me, and I'll take good care of you. Thank you so much for listening to No BS Sales Team. I'll be talking to you soon next time about how you manage expectations when you get into a meeting. Thanks for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast. If you haven't already, please take 1 minute to write a quick review for the show. It really does make a huge difference. Also, subscribe to the show and please forward this episode to somebody else who needs to hear it. As a bonus for listening, I'm going to give you access to a free mini course, 7 expensive sales mistakes you're making and what you can do about it. Go to www.7salesmistakes.com and get access to the free mini course. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast.